38 minutes. That is how fast this one meal combination starts lowering your blood sugar. Not a medication, not a supplement, not anything requiring a prescription or costing hundreds of dollars monthly. A specific combination of foods eaten in a precise sequence that researchers at Weill Cornell Medical College proved reduces glucose spikes by 54% compared to eating the exact same foods in random order. And here's what makes me angry. The research was published in Diabetes Care in 2015. That is 9 years ago. So, why is not every endocrinologist in America teaching meal sequencing to diabetic patients before writing another Jardiance prescription? I am going to walk you through the exact meal structure, 7 critical components ranked from supportive to absolutely essential, and the number one element that when consumed first changes how your entire digestive system processes everything that follows. When I saw this data, I had to verify it across multiple studies because the mechanism is so powerful, it rivals some prescription medications. If you believe seniors deserve complete scientific information about blood sugar control, not just whatever keeps pharmaceutical companies most profitable, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Only people who benefit financially from your continued illness would choose not to subscribe. The diabetes medication industry generates $147 billion globally each year. The average American type 2 diabetic spends $2,300 annually on medications and supplies. These companies need you dependent on prescriptions every single month. What they absolutely do not need is for you to discover that the sequence in which you eat foods alters glucose absorption so dramatically that some people reduce medication needs within weeks. There is no patent on eating vegetables before protein before carbohydrates. No intellectual property protection on a meal structure humans could implement immediately at zero cost. So the research sits in medical journals while your doctor spends 15 minutes telling you to lose weight and take your pills. Let me establish something before we continue. I am not telling you to stop your medications. I am not your physician. This is not medical advice replacing professional medical care. What I am showing you is peer-reviewed published science that somehow never makes it into the standard diabetes education class where a nurse tells you to count carbohydrates and avoid sugar. Talk to your doctor before making changes to your treatment plan. But ask yourself this critical question. If the research exists, if the mechanism is proven across multiple universities and published in respected journals, why did nobody explain meal sequencing to you until this moment? Here is what we are covering today. The 7 components of the optimal blood sugar control meal, ranked from helpful to absolutely critical. How eating these components in a specific order changes gastric emptying rate, glucose absorption kinetics, and incretin hormone release. The exact timing between components that maximizes the glycemic benefit. And the number one food category that, when consumed, first creates a protective barrier in your digestive tract, reducing glucose spikes by margins that shocked researchers when they first measured it. Number 7 on the countdown, healthy fats. And I know the conventional wisdom says fat is bad, fat causes heart disease, diabetics should follow low-fat diets. That advice is killing people. Multiple large-scale studies have now proven that replacing refined carbohydrates with healthy fats improves cardiovascular outcomes and glycemic control in diabetics. The key is choosing the right fats and understanding their role in meal sequencing. When you consume healthy fats like olive oil, avocado, nuts, or fatty fish, they slow gastric emptying. Your stomach is a muscular bag that churns food and releases it gradually into your small intestine. The rate at which your stomach empties determines how quickly glucose enters your bloodstream. Faster gastric emptying equals sharper glucose spike. Slower gastric emptying equals gradual glucose rise your pancreas can manage without flooding your system with insulin. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism examined this mechanism specifically. Researchers at the University of Adelaide in Australia had type 2 diabetics consume identical meals with different fat content. Meals containing 30 grams of fat from olive oil emptied from the stomach 43% slower than low-fat meals. The slower emptying translated directly to lower postprandial glucose. Peak blood sugar was reduced by 29%, and the glucose curve showed a gradual rise and fall instead of a sharp spike and crash. The mechanism involves a hormone called cholecystokinin, abbreviated CCK. When fat enters your small intestine, cells lining your intestinal wall release CCK. This hormone signals your stomach to slow down, to hold food longer before releasing more. CCK also stimulates your gallbladder to release bile for fat digestion and triggers your pancreas to secrete digestive enzymes. But the gastric emptying delay is what matters for blood sugar. By keeping food in your stomach longer, you spread glucose absorption over extended time rather than getting hit with a massive glucose load all at once. The type of fat matters critically. Monounsaturated fats from olive oil, avocados, and nuts provide the best metabolic benefits. Omega-3 fatty acids from fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines add anti-inflammatory effects that improve insulin sensitivity over time. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that replacing saturated fats with monounsaturated fats improved insulin sensitivity by 12% over 12 weeks in diabetic subjects. Avoid industrial seed oils like soybean oil, corn oil, and cottonseed oil. These omega-6 heavy oils promote inflammation that worsens insulin resistance. Also avoid trans fats completely, though these are now banned from most processed foods in the United States. Focus on extra virgin olive oil as your primary added fat, supplemented with whole food fat sources like avocados, nuts, seeds, and fatty fish. Number 6. Lean protein. Protein serves multiple functions in blood sugar control beyond just preventing muscle loss. When consumed as part of a properly sequenced meal, protein stimulates insulin release while simultaneously blunting glucose spikes, creating a beneficial metabolic effect. The mechanism involves incretin hormones, particularly glucagon-like peptide-1, abbreviated GLP-1. You have probably heard of GLP-1 because drugs like Ozempic and Mounjaro are GLP-1 receptor agonists. These medications mimic the natural hormone your gut produces in response to food. But here is what the pharmaceutical companies do not advertise. You can stimulate natural GLP-1 release through proper meal composition and sequencing without spending $1,200 monthly on injections. When protein reaches your small intestine, specialized cells called L cells detect amino acids and release GLP-1. This hormone does several remarkable things. It enhances insulin secretion from your pancreas, but only when blood glucose is elevated, reducing hypoglycemia risk. It suppresses glucagon release from your pancreas. Glucagon is the hormone that tells your liver to dump stored glucose into your bloodstream, so suppressing it prevents your liver from adding fuel to an already rising glucose level. GLP-1 also slows gastric emptying, working synergistically with the fats we discussed. And it promotes satiety, reducing overall caloric intake. A study in Diabetologia examined protein's impact on postprandial glucose. Researchers at Lund University in Sweden had type 2 diabetics consume meals with varying protein content. Meals containing 35 grams of protein reduced 2-hour postprandial glucose by 41 milligrams per deciliter, compared to low-protein meals with identical carbohydrate and fat content. The insulin response was also more efficient, meaning the pancreas needed to secrete less insulin to achieve better glucose control. This suggests improved insulin sensitivity mediated by the GLP-1 pathway. The protein source matters. Research indicates animal proteins stimulate greater GLP-1 release than plant proteins, though plant proteins still provide benefit. Whey protein appears particularly effective, with studies showing it produces the highest GLP-1 response and greatest reduction in postprandial glucose among protein sources tested. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that consuming whey protein before a carbohydrate meal reduced glucose spikes by 35% compared to consuming the carbohydrate alone. Practical protein sources for the optimal meal include grilled chicken breast, wild-caught salmon, or other fatty fish providing both protein and omega-3 fats, grass-fed beef or bison, pasture-raised eggs, and Greek yogurt for those who tolerate dairy. Aim for 30 to 40 grams of protein in this meal to maximize the GLP-1 response and insulin sensitivity benefits. Before we continue to number 5, I need you to do something. If you are starting to see how meal structure and sequencing fundamentally alter metabolic response, if you are realizing your doctor never explained any of this, despite it being published in major journals, smash that like button right now. Not for me. For every senior managing diabetes who was told to just count carbohydrates and take more pills. Every, signals the algorithm that people want, mechanism-based nutrition science, even when pharmaceutical companies would prefer you remain uninformed. Number 5. Apple cider vinegar. This is where the science gets particularly interesting because vinegar has been used medicinally for thousands of years. But only recently have researchers identified the specific mechanisms by which it improves glucose control. And those mechanisms are powerful enough that some physicians now recommend vinegar before meals as part of diabetes management protocols. The active component is acetic acid. When you consume vinegar, acetic acid does something remarkable in your digestive system. It inhibits enzymes that break down complex carbohydrates into simple sugars. Specifically, it reduces the activity of alpha amylase in your saliva and digestive tract and alpha glucosidase in your small intestine. These are the same enzymes that the prescription drug acarbose targets. Acarbose costs approximately $150 monthly without insurance. Apple cider vinegar costs $4 for a bottle lasting a month. A meta-analysis published in Diabetes Research and Clinical Practice reviewed 11 trials examining vinegar consumption and glycemic control. The pooled analysis showed that consuming vinegar before or with meals reduced postprandial glucose by approximately 20 milligrams per deciliter on average. More importantly, vinegar consumption improved insulin sensitivity, with some studies showing improvements in insulin sensitivity markers of up to 34% over 8 weeks of consistent use. The most impressive study came from Arizona State University and was published in Diabetes Care. Researchers had type 2 diabetics consume 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in water before bedtime. This simple intervention reduced fasting glucose the next morning by 4 to 6% on average. The effect was most pronounced in subjects with the poorest baseline glucose control. Those starting with fasting glucose above 130 milligrams per deciliter saw reductions averaging 8%. Let me tell you about Catherine, 67 years old, retired accountant from Georgia, type 2 diabetic for 11 years. Her morning fasting glucose consistently ran 140 to 160 despite taking metformin 1,000 milligrams twice daily and glipizide 10 milligrams once daily. Her A1C hovered around 7.9. Her doctor wanted to add a third medication, possibly a DPP-4 inhibitor or SGLT2 inhibitor, both expensive and carrying side effect risks. Catherine came across research about vinegar and decided to try it before adding another medication. Every evening before bed, she mixed 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in 8 ounces of water and drank it. She did not change her diet otherwise. She did not increase exercise. She just added this nightly vinegar drink. She monitored her fasting glucose each morning with her glucometer. Within 1 week, she noticed her fasting readings dropping. Instead of 140 to 160, she was seeing 120 to 140. After 3 weeks, her fasting glucose was consistently 110 to 130. After 8 weeks, she had her quarterly lab work. Her A1C had dropped from 7.9 to 7.2. Her doctor was surprised and asked what had changed. When Catherine explained the vinegar protocol, the doctor was skeptical, but could not argue with the objective laboratory results. Catherine continued the practice. She also started adding vinegar to her lunch and dinner routine, consuming 1 tablespoon in water 15 minutes before each meal. After 6 months, her A1C was 6.8. Her doctor reduced her glipizide dose. After 1 year, her A1C stabilized at 6.6, and glipizide was discontinued completely. She remains on metformin, but avoided the medication escalation her doctor had recommended by implementing a $4 per month intervention that research proved effective, but somehow never entered standard diabetes education. The practical application is straightforward. Mix 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in 8 ounces of water. Drink it 15 to 20 minutes before meals, or consume it at the start of the meal. Some people add a small amount of stevia or lemon juice to improve taste. Do not consume vinegar undiluted as the acidity can damage tooth enamel and esophageal tissue. Always dilute it in water. If you have gastroparesis, delayed gastric emptying common in long-term diabetics, consult your physician before using vinegar as it may worsen symptoms. Number 4. Fiber-rich, non-starchy vegetables. This is where we start seeing truly dramatic effects on glucose response. When consumed as the first solid food in a meal, non-starchy vegetables create a protective environment in your digestive system that fundamentally changes how everything else you eat affects your blood sugar. The mechanism involves both soluble and insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber dissolves in water, forming a viscous gel in your intestinal tract. This gel physically slows the movement of food through your digestive system, spreading nutrient absorption over time. It also creates a barrier between digestive enzymes and the food you eat, slowing the breakdown of complex carbohydrates into glucose. Insoluble fiber adds bulk and further slows transit time while feeding beneficial gut bacteria that produce metabolic benefits we will discuss shortly. But there is another mechanism most people do not know about. Non-starchy vegetables are extremely low in caloric density, but high in volume. When you fill your stomach with high-volume, low-calorie food first, you trigger stretch receptors in your stomach wall. These receptors signal your brain that the stomach is filling, triggering satiety hormones and slowing gastric emptying before high-calorie, high-carbohydrate foods even enter the picture. A groundbreaking study published in Diabetes Care examined this exact strategy. Researchers at Weill Cornell Medical College had type 2 diabetics eat identical meals consisting of vegetables, protein, and carbohydrates. One group ate in random order. The other group ate vegetables first, waited 10 minutes, then consumed protein, and finally ate carbohydrates. The food sequencing group showed glucose spikes 54% lower than the random order group, despite consuming identical foods in identical amounts. 54% from nothing but rearranging the order foods touched their digestive system. The researchers measured something else revealing. They tracked gastric emptying rates using imaging. The food sequencing group showed significantly slower gastric emptying, meaning the protective fiber barrier from vegetables consumed first continued affecting digestion throughout the entire meal. This created a sustained reduction in glucose absorption rate, lasting the full postprandial period. Another study from Lund University in Sweden examined specific vegetables and their glucose blunting capacity. They found that cruciferous vegetables, things like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage, provided the greatest benefit. These vegetables contain not just fiber, but also compounds called glucosinolates that may improve insulin sensitivity through anti-inflammatory mechanisms. Leafy greens like spinach, kale, and collard greens ranked second, providing high fiber content with minimal digestive load. Let me tell you about Frank, 71 years old. Retired construction worker from Texas. Type 2 diabetic for 16 years. Frank loved meat and potatoes. That was his food culture, what he grew up eating, what felt like real food to him. His doctor kept telling him to eat more vegetables, but Frank would have a small side salad and call it done. His A1C was 8.3 despite metformin and Januvia. His postprandial glucose regularly spiked above 250. Then Frank's daughter, who worked in healthcare, showed him the Cornell study about food sequencing. She explained that he did not have to give up meat and potatoes. He just needed to eat a large portion of vegetables first, wait 10 minutes, then eat his usual meal. Frank was skeptical, but agreed to try for 1 month. He started each lunch and dinner with a large salad. Mixed greens, cucumbers, tomatoes, bell peppers, olive oil and vinegar dressing. Or steamed broccoli and cauliflower with a bit of butter and garlic. He would eat until he felt the vegetables filling his stomach, then wait 10 minutes while watching television or reading the paper. Then he would eat his normal meal of grilled steak or chicken with a potato or rice. The practical implementation is simple, but requires consistency. At lunch and dinner, start with 2 to 3 cups of non-starchy vegetables, raw in salad form, steamed, roasted, or sautéed in olive oil. Focus on cruciferous vegetables and leafy greens as your foundation. Eat these vegetables first, taking your time, chewing thoroughly. Wait at least 10 minutes before starting the protein and carbohydrate portions of your meal. This waiting period is critical. It allows the fiber to begin forming that protective gel barrier and triggers the stretch receptors that slow gastric emptying. Now, we are at about the 25-minute mark. Let me pause the countdown because there is critical information about nighttime blood sugar I could not fit into this video. Most people do not realize that what you eat at dinner affects your fasting glucose the next morning more than anything else you do. I created a complete guide called the Overnight Glucose Recovery Protocol, explaining exactly what to eat and when to eat it to wake up with normal fasting blood sugar. The link is in the description. It is free. Check it out after you finish this video because managing morning glucose is the missing piece most diabetics never address. Back to the countdown. Number 3. Fermented foods. This category surprises most people, but the science is compelling. Fermented foods contain beneficial bacteria and bioactive compounds that improve glucose control through multiple mechanisms. And recent research suggests they may be one of the most underutilized tools in diabetes management. But fermented foods do something else. They contain organic acids like lactic acid that function similarly to the acetic acid in vinegar. These acids slow carbohydrate digestion and blunt glucose spikes. A study published in the Journal of Diabetes Research examined kimchi consumption in pre-diabetic subjects. Participants who consumed kimchi with meals for 8 weeks showed significant improvements in fasting glucose, insulin resistance markers, and blood pressure compared to control group. The kimchi group also showed changes in gut bacteria composition, with increases in species associated with improved metabolic health. The mechanism is multifactorial. The fiber creates a physical and chemical barrier slowing glucose absorption. The vinegar inhibits carbohydrate digesting enzymes. The healthy fats slow gastric emptying. The volume triggers satiety signals reducing overall caloric intake. The time delay allows these protective mechanisms to establish before glucose enters the system. Everything works together synergistically. He monitored his blood glucose carefully before and after meals. Within 1 week, he noticed his post-meal glucose spikes were dramatically lower. Where he used to see 200 to 242 hours after eating, he was now seeing 160 to 180. He started reducing his mealtime insulin doses, first from 6 units to 4, then to 2. After 3 weeks, he was not needing mealtime insulin at all, as long as he followed the salad-first sequencing protocol. After 3 months, his A1C was 7.1. His endocrinologist reduced his nightly long-acting insulin from 20 units to 15. After 6 months, his A1C was 6.8 and his insulin was down to 10 units nightly. After 1 year, James was off insulin completely. His A1C was 6.6 maintained with only metformin. He had lost the 30 pounds he gained on insulin. His blood pressure and cholesterol had improved. His endocrinologist was amazed, but struggled to understand how eliminating insulin could improve diabetes control. The doctor kept suggesting it must be the weight loss, even though the weight loss was a result of the intervention, not the cause. The reality is, James had discovered that insulin is often treating a symptom, the high blood sugar, without addressing the cause, the excessive glucose absorption creating the spikes in the first place. By controlling glucose absorption through meal sequencing, he reduced the need for exogenous insulin. James is now 75. He maintains the salad-first protocol at every lunch and dinner. His most recent A1C was 6.5. He has been off insulin for 2 years. He avoided the progressive disease trajectory his doctors predicted, the one where insulin doses increase yearly until complications become inevitable. Instead, he addressed the root cause through understanding digestive physiology and implementing a food sequencing strategy with proven mechanisms. This is what I mean when I say the medical establishment gives you incomplete information. They focus on medication management without teaching food-based interventions that address underlying mechanisms. Because there is no pharmaceutical profit in teaching patients to eat salad first. Medical education devotes minimal time to nutrition and essentially zero time to meal sequencing, despite published research proving its effectiveness. Let me synthesize everything into the complete optimal meal protocol. This is your blueprint for the #1 best meal to reverse blood sugar, quickly backed by science. Step 1. 15 to 20 minutes before the meal, drink 8 ounces of water containing 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. This primes your digestive system with acetic acid to inhibit carbohydrate digesting enzymes. Step 2. Begin the meal with a large salad. 2 to 3 cups minimum of mixed leafy greens. Add non-starchy vegetables like cucumbers, tomatoes, bell peppers, broccoli. Dress with extra virgin olive oil and red wine vinegar or lemon juice. Add 1/4 to 1/2 cup of fermented vegetables like sauerkraut or kimchi. Sprinkle with 1 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon if palatable. Eat this salad slowly, chewing thoroughly, taking at least 10 to 15 minutes. Step 3. Wait 10 minutes after finishing the salad before proceeding to the next course. This waiting period is critical. Use this time to converse if eating with others, or read, or simply rest. Allow the fiber barrier to form and gastric emptying to slow. Step 4. Consume your protein portion. 30 to 40 grams of lean protein, such as grilled chicken, wild-caught fish, grass-fed beef, or pasture-raised eggs. If tolerate dairy, full-fat plain Greek yogurt or kefir works well, providing both protein and probiotics. Eat the protein slowly, taking another 10 minutes. Step 5. Wait 5 minutes, then consume your healthy fats if not already included in salad dressing or protein preparation. A quarter avocado, a small handful of nuts, or a tablespoon of olive oil drizzled on vegetables. Step 6. Finally, consume your carbohydrate portion. This should be the smallest portion on your plate. Choose complex carbohydrates like sweet potato, quinoa, brown rice, or legumes. Avoid refined carbohydrates like white bread, white rice, or pasta, unless prepared using resistant starch formation through cooling. Keep this portion to a half cup or less. Step 7. After the meal, consider a 10 to 15-minute walk. Even light movement improves glucose uptake into muscle tissue without requiring insulin. Studies show that a 15-minute walk after eating reduces postprandial glucose by approximately 15 to 20%. This is not going to reverse decades of diabetes overnight. The research shows meaningful improvements appearing between 4 and 12 weeks of consistent implementation. That is your body gradually repairing insulin sensitivity, reducing pancreatic stress, improving gut bacteria composition, and restoring metabolic flexibility. Expect gradual improvement. Document it. Monitor your blood glucose before and 2 hours after meals. Share the results with your physician, even if they seem skeptical about a food-based intervention. Now I need your help spreading this information. Hit subscribe if you have not already. Turn on notifications so you catch every video. Drop a comment saying I deserve science-based solutions if this information was valuable to you. Smash that like button to tell the algorithm people want mechanism-based nutrition education. And share this video with anyone you know struggling with blood sugar. Send it directly, because the algorithm will not show them content that threatens pharmaceutical profit margins. But we are not finished. This video covered the optimal meal structure for blood sugar control. I made another video about the 7 supposedly healthy breakfast foods that spike blood sugar worse than donuts. Number 1 on that list is recommended by diabetes educators constantly despite raising glucose faster than pancake syrup. Number 3 is marketed as heart healthy, but sends blood sugar through the roof within 30 minutes. Watch that video next. Link is on screen and in the description. They have controlled the narrative for decades, telling you to count carbohydrates and take more pills while withholding information about meal sequencing that could reduce medication needs. Your engagement is resistance. Your subscription is a declaration that you deserve complete information. Your shares save lives by connecting other seniors to science their doctors never mentioned. Subscribe now. And I will see you in the next video where we expose the breakfast foods destroying your blood sugar while your doctor tells you they are healthy choices.